You've never asked me to do anything like this.
I'm running out of options, Val. I can't keep them at bay for long.
He didn't do anything wrong.
This is no longer a matter of ethics.
I know.
Remove him from the game.
I'll take care of it.
Ensure that you do. We gods do not play at dice.
There Came an Echo, released February 24th of this year, is the sophomore release from indie developer Iridium Studios. Following the success of their 2011 debut, Sequence, Iridium Studios founder Jason Wishnoff kept the company ideals of high-quality, original games rolling with his Kickstarter for There Came an Echo. There Came an Echo is a sci-fi tactical RTS controlled completely through voice commands. You take the role as a tactical operator named Sam, and you and your associate Val help guide unlucky software developer Corin and his eventual gang through the twisting and turning sci-fi plots. As a massive, and I mean gigantic fan of Sequence, I was very excited for There Came an Echo. Sequence was proof of Iridium Studios' passion for high quality and original concepts, as it brilliantly blended RPG and rhythm gameplay alongside having amazing art, music, and story. Seeing their Kickstarter page, I could only dream There Came an Echo with its high-budgeted voice actors and innovative voice controls would meet the same level of quality as its predecessor. But does it? Sadly, it does not. The gameplay ends up being somewhat spotty. I had occasional issues with the voice controls, and while some of them I could mark up to having a subpar microphone setup, there were a couple that I did not exactly feel like were my faults.
Corin, shields up. Shields up. Corin, shields up. Move to Alpha.
For the most part, however, the voice controls did okay. They never were what I would call great, but they did the job. Voice controls are only one piece to the gameplay puzzle, however, and the level design isn't doing much to help the case. The RTS elements are rather sparse. They never feel like there's much of a tactical advantage to think about in the middle of combat, other than, is everyone behind cover, and is everyone spread out? The problem lies with the fact that you can only direct troops to predetermined waypoints. This is necessary because it gives the player ease of control via voice commands, but it greatly limits any experimentation with the gameplay. During loading screens and tutorials, the game will mention more complex concepts like laying down suppressing fire or flanking an enemy, but I never found myself in a position to do any of those. Most gameplay sequences are quite linear in structure, and a lot of the level design is based around tight corridors and rooms. This also becomes an issue for the sniper rifle, as a character can't use it if they're under fire. But most of the levels are designed so tightly that there's rarely any room to use the weapon as an option. Truthfully, the only real tactical choice you'll ever make is using the charge gun, which delivers an AoE blast. If the enemies are clumped together, then have someone use it. If you're clumped together and the enemies are using the charge gun, spread everybody out. That's about it. Speaking of the sniper rifle, the ranges that gun operates in are a bit too large for how tightly made the levels are. The standard pistol has such a long range that if you wanted to use a sniper rifle in a firefight, the character using it would have to be positioned off-screen, lest they be tagged by a pistol shot. This is clunky because the speed of the map scroll is very slow, and it makes trying to keep track of anything spread out rather frustrating. This becomes a huge issue in two missions, one where you have 2 snipers and 2 turrets defending the base on a very large map, and one where you have multiple units at different stations pressing buttons every 60 seconds. Both of these missions require you to scroll across the map at a non-stop pace to check up on things, but the scroll is so slow that it's aggravating. There is one more gameplay failure I have to mention, but we'll bring it up later when we're into spoiler territory. For now, let's mention that the art and graphics are pretty dang alright. The level and designs are very bright and colorful, and everything is very appealing. I have to say that I like how diversified the color palette is. There's a multitude of color tones, and everything ends up being very unique looking. I do think that the character models are a little outdated. They don't look as nice as the art direction, and the quality of their animation can be pretty hit or miss. The music, supplied by Big Giant Circles and Ronald Jenkins, is great. Both artists are crazy talented and bring some killer tracks to the game. Personally though, it's a crime that the music is a little underplayed since the game is so story-centered. There's just so much dialogue that the music has to take a backseat to the production. It's a bit more of an ambient soundtrack admittedly, but I wish it got just a little bit more exposure for how great it is. The other half of the audio production is the voice acting cast, which is pretty damn star-studded, but truthfully, not without its faults. Will Wheaton stars as the story's main character, Corin. In the fairness of airing any prejudices, I have to admit that I think Will Wheaton's shtick makes him seem like an unfunny douchebag who is famous for not particularly being talented, but famous for being Will Wheaton. That said, he does an okay job as Corin. I do think his voice is a bit of a miscast, as he seems too deep and gruff for Corin's appearance, and also his delivery can be a bit wonky at times. Overall, it's a pretty decent job. When placed next to many of the other voice actors, it shows. Val is played by Ashley Birch, and she delivers a knockout performance. Ashley just kills every line. She is capable of a wide array of tones and emotions through her dialogue, and it truly transforms Val into one of the best and most likable characters. She can be cute, emotional, funny, quirky, riled up, and level-headed, all when she needs to be, and it's amazing. A++ to her. Miranda is played by Laura Bailey, and she nails the role of a cocksure, no-nonsense militaristic mercenary. The delivery is dead nuts accurate, and she makes the role sound like a Saturday afternoon stroll through the park. Adam is played by Yuri Lowenthal, and much like Laura Bailey, his vast experience in voice acting leads to him knocking the role out of the park. His performance as Adam had me laughing out loud at multiple points in the game. Grace is played by Cassandra Morris, and she's probably the lowest point on the cast. Grace is XX Edgelord 420XX. She's just so annoying and edgy throughout the vast majority of this game. I will grant there is one scene where she shines, but for the most part, she's pretty gosh darn unenjoyable. Nothing sucks the fun out of the room like giving Grace a command and hearing, whatever. The blame isn't solely Morris's fault. Grace's script is pretty lame, but she doesn't particularly help it in my opinion. Syl is played by Jason Wishnoff, the captain behind Iridium Studios and this game. Being the member of the cast with the least amount of experience, I have to say he does a pretty good job. I liked his role as Kai back in Sequence, and his role as Syl has him branching out into much more difficult voice acting, even if it came with some missteps along the way. However, I did find him to get a bit grating in the more emotionally fueled later parts of the game. All in all, the voice acting is above average. If anything, how well Val, Miranda, and Adam are played kinda highlights that Corin, Grace, and Syl aren't up to the same level, even if it doesn't mean to. The bigger fish to fry is the story. And with that mentioned, we dip our toes into the spoiler zone. Everything after this point will discuss the game's story in detail with spoilers, and any sort of other elements that could not be discussed without giving away key information. Hopefully everything I've mentioned until now should give you a good enough idea on if you want to purchase There Came an Echo or not. If not, allow me to summarize. There Came an Echo is hard to recommend. The gameplay feels too shallow, and even minor unresponsiveness can cause frustration. Not to mention that the main storyline is very short, with Steam logging in my playtime at only 4 hours. And let me tell you that a lot of that was cutscenes too. My official recommendation is this: play Sequence. It's damn near perfect, and if you are just dying for more from Iridium Studios, then play There Came an Echo. Just know that it does not match up in terms of quality. For everyone else, if you skip their Kamineko, I can't say that you're missing out on all that much. It's a very ambitious game, and I respect the fact that they're trying something new and original, but the end product just isn't there. As we are about to discuss, the storyline is going to make you feel like poop. With that out of the way, let's throw down the warning. We are now entering the spoiler zone. Please keep all arms and legs inside the ride at all times, and please buckle up as we are about to get down and dirty with this game's storyline. I saved this for last just because of the amount of sheer time this is going to eat up, so get comfy. We're going to be here for a bit. So after the intro cutscene, which I played at the beginning of this video, we are introduced to Val and the player's character, Sam. Val handles field communications, basically making her the narrator of sorts, and you, as Sam, give tactical commands. Val informs you that your job is to help this software developer named Corin. Corin was originally the lead singer of a very successful 90s rock band, but has since developed an open source program called Radiolock. While Corin claims this program is unrunnable and unbreakable, some very bad looking men are on their way to capture Corin and have him break Radiolock. Understandably, Corin is pretty suspect of the unknown voices telling him he's in danger, but getting a phaser blast to the body sure does a good job of convincing him. Escaping into a car Val set up, Corin gets a chance to take in a little more of what's going on here. Val explains that Radiolock is protecting a very dangerous piece of data, and Val needs it, lest it fall into the hands of the people after Corin. Corin, not exactly thrilled with the situation, agrees to help, mainly because he doesn't have much of a choice in the matter anyways. They attempt to fly to their safe house in Seattle, but the baddies show up not too long after and crash the party. Corin is forced into combat, which isn't exactly his forte, as we see him unable to pull the trigger when the time comes. After being pinned down, a gruff, militaristic woman named Miranda comes up to him. Miranda seems to be the head of the enemy soldiers, but tells Corin they need to leave. Corin isn't exactly buying the double agent bit Miranda is trying to put off, but she does a good job convincing him by killing one of her soldiers point blank and using his flash grenade to mask their escape. Together, Miranda and a very clumsy Corin escape into a helicopter piloted by Miranda's friend, Adam. Once in the air, Miranda explains to Corin that she is a mercenary paid to protect Corin. Or kill him, I guess. But since Miranda would only get half for him dead, it's in both of their best interests to keep him alive. She also explains that a woman named Heather Farrick is the person behind the baddies, a detail Val thought was in Corin's best interest not to know. Val and Miranda get into it for a little while, but the crew continues on to the weapons cache hideout. We are also introduced to Adam, who is the best comic relief in the game. Personally, I think the way Miranda is introduced is really sloppy, a common theme with the way the writing goes, and that it tries to be quick and witty when it can, but it could really use some time slowing things down and explaining. Everything in Miranda's introduction happens so fast that it's really hard to tell who she's working with and who Farrick is. It's really poorly handled. Once at the weapons cache, Corin goes through some battle tutorials, and honestly, the tutorials are very well integrated into the game. It's a pretty seamless transition, and it makes sense in the context of the story. It's really well done. In an attempt to learn more about Farrick, the team learns about a 19-year-old girl named Grace who showed up in a police report concerning Farrick. Miranda knows Grace is trying to hunt her down, but for some reason Farrick and all of her infinite wealth and soldiers haven't killed her yet. Val gets an address and they're off to investigate. Honestly, the way Miranda cuts off Val heavily confuses the situation when they are talking about Grace. Watch this.
Some information.
Must be an unfamiliar feeling.
Miranda, shut up.
Some backbone. It must be rubbing off.
Farrick sort of vanished a while back, but she was mentioned in a local police report 4 months ago. The report was classified. I'm still trying to get a name on the
Her
residence.
name is Grace Williams. She's 19 years old.
What?
I didn't know she was in Seattle. A few of the men were talking about her. That girl was trying to track Farrick down. She might know something.
Why didn't they just kill her?
I don't know, but they haven't.
That is a lot of information that just kinda happens, and it's really obtuse. It's trying way too hard to be snappy, when it should feel confident in taking its time and explaining things better. Corin and Miranda breach the premises and find that Grace is being defended by Farrick's troops. After a couple skirmishes, they successfully save Grace. But while no one is looking, an enemy gets the flank on Miranda, and Corin leaps into action to save her in a scene that is supposed to be character development. But instead I laughed.
Now, was that so hard?
Yeah.
According to Grace, Farrick's lackeys have kept her under watch for some time now, and Grace wants to join in with the team. Miranda heavily objects to the idea, but Grace sweetens the pot by letting them know that she has information about the terminal Radiolock. This information comes at a price, however. Grace wants the team to go into enemy territory and kill one of Farrick's soldiers. Val lets us know that the dead man walking is named William Lewis, one of Farrick's gang. Before the team goes out to pull the assassination, Corin asks Grace why she wants Lewis dead. Her response is as follows.
he cheated and killed fish.
She's supposed to be lying, since the real reason is that he killed Grace's sister. But since Grace is the edgiest damn thing I've seen, it was real hard to tell that she's fibbing. Regardless, they bring Corn along, as they need to hack the security terminal to get into enemy territory. Or at least so they think. Once they get to the security terminal, Corn finds that someone, a very talented someone, has already hacked it. A mysterious and powerful British man named Syl introduces himself to the group. He demands to talk to Corn later, and by demands, he means to fire off the security alarms and alert Ferric not only to the Seattle weapons cache, but all secondary and tertiary ones if they refuse. So, obviously they agree. After a firefight throughout the base, Grace finds and kills Lewis with the addition of some horrendously overplayed slow-mo effects. With some remote assistance from Syl, the gang escapes the base. Back at the base, the gang squabbles for a bit, but are interrupted when Syl appears in the flesh. Corn and Syl have the conversation Syl demanded, and some of the more juicy details come out. Syl has been on a revenge plot for someone who broke into his security systems and killed his wife. He originally suspected that Corn was the murderer since he found traces of the same algorithm of the hacker on Corn's computer. But after seeing Corn himself and realizing that the hacking algorithm was truly beyond human comprehension, he realizes it's not him. Regardless, he makes Corn delve out some details. Syl asks what someone could have wanted from Corn's computer. Corn's answer is the same as always. He doesn't know. Radiolock is open source, so all the information needed is already out there. Also, Corn had previously mentioned that he had published Radiolock anonymously, but now he admits that he was paid to do so. Their conversation is cut short as Ferric's troops have found the weapons cache and are marching in on it. Grace, Corn, and Adam prepare the helicopter, while Syl and Miranda snipe off the oncoming waves. With the gang in the air and Val's security compromised, Syl directs the helicopter to a destination in Canada and mentions that they just have to trust him. Upon arrival, Syl drops the British accent and unveils that his name is actually Kai. I thought this was a cute reference, since Jason Wishnoff voiced the main character Kai back in Sequence. Syl, obviously friendly with the establishment, leads everyone inside. Once inside, they meet a man named Mir, who sounds awfully familiar, but I just can't place my finger on it. Regardless, Corn knows who Mir is, as he reveals that Mir was the person who paid him off to publish Radiolock anonymously. Syl introduces the establishment as the Tower, an organization dedicated to eugenic pairing to basically create more brilliant offspring. Syl mentions that he was part of this as he and a girl named Naya were put into a program designed to make them fall in love. Wait, Naya. As in the girl from the first game? Oh my god, There Came an Echo is a sequel! One of the best parts about this story is how seamless it introduces itself as a sequel to Sequence. It never comes out and just says it up front, but instead it just mentions enough specific people and events until it hits you. Exceptionally well done. After I finish picking up the pieces from my brain, Mir talks to Syl, who is actually Kai, about how there is something that he has to see, and it has to do with how Kai's wife Naya was murdered. Corn wonders, if Mir is the one using Radiolock to hide his precious data, why does he have to break it? He can just, open the files and delete them. Mir refuses. This is his life work, so he's not gonna hand it over, and would basically rather put Corn's life in danger. He apologizes for that, though. I guess he's not that bad of a human.
The conversation takes a turn as Heather Ferric remotes in.
The thing that sucks about Heather Ferric as a villain is that we never actually see her until halfway through the game. On top of that, there is never really any context or explanation of who she is. All we know is that her name is Ferric, she's evil, and she wants Corn to break Radiolock. Anyways, back to the story. Ferric's all give me the codes to your system, yo, and Mir's all you ain't getting these codes, ho? Ferric's all oh, okay, bro, I know where you is. The team heads over to the tower headquarters to defend Mir from Ferric's assaults. When in the air, the team has a minor conversation about religion, which is almost a worthwhile theme to the story, but not really. Once at the tower, they find Ferric's troops and have to fight their way to Mir. Mir is injured, but alive. Grace, Miranda, and Kai follow an escaping Ferric, who has what looks to be Naya, Kai's murdered wife, in tow. Kai doesn't believe that the woman with Ferric is Naya, as, Naya is dead. But Mir turns to Kai and explains that he's done a lot of lying, and it's time to come clean. Alright, sidebar. I know I've put a lot of detail into the synopsis of this game's story thus far. The story is a big part, and with so many twists and turns, I wanted to make sure that anyone watching this video isn't lost along the way. I have to ask from here on out, though, that you pay close attention, because the storyline is about to go off the rails. And I mean breaking into the atmosphere and jumping out of space.
My deepest apologies. I'm not certain how they identified our position.
Who was that girl, Mir? It sure as hell wasn't Naya.
She was what you desperately needed to see. Despite what you think...
Do not screw with me!
I've told many lies, Kai. They stop here. Listen carefully to what I say. If you afterwards remain unconvinced, I'll be happy to provide evidence. 8 years ago, you and Naya were put through a computer simulation designed to make you fall in love. It worked. And when it was over, for the very first time, you woke up.
I beg your pardon.
I lied to you. The Tower was not an organization devoted to ensuring genetic purity. It was devoted to achieving an ideal, creating something perfect.
My and Naya's eventual child.
No. You, Kai. We created you.
You authored his DNA.
We certainly did. But even then, it wasn't enough. Even the greatest mind might be undone by a single damaging experience in those fragile years of childhood and adolescence. We had to do more.
You couldn't possibly control every element of my life. My family, my friends, my schools.
You're not listening to me, Kai. We did control all of those things. Because until 8 years ago, you were never really alive at all. Everything before the Tower was a simulation. You were a simulation. Data in a program.
Artificial intelligence isn't nearly that good, Mir.
In one sense, yes. But imagine, with enough computational power, that you could simulate a simple neuron, brain cell. With still more, you could simulate 10, 100, 1,000,000. We are, in our entirety, represented by the pattern of the 100 billion neurons in our brains.
You couldn't possibly have enough power for that.
Always doubting, Kai. Our quantum systems managed it with ease, and so we created you within a world of silicon and diamond, and gave you the perfect world. A measure of hardship to build character, a measure of utopia to inspire idealism and ambition. If anything went wrong, if anything brought about a negative result in your psyche, we would simply rewind and try it again. We rewound the Tower on dozens of occasions, every time you failed.
This is ridiculous. What, we're still in a simulation?
Of course not. We're patterns, Kai. But what prevents us from constructing those patterns ourselves? We laid down one neuron after another, one layer after another, all the way up. Neural construction. We built your mind from scratch, Kai. The blueprint copied directly from the Tower's programming. And then we gave you a body, and then we woke you up. Perfect human. You.
What the hell, man?
I don't believe...
Since you emerged from the Tower, Kai, have you had any contact with your family, your childhood friends?
I didn't. I was with Naya, and then she... Was she...
No, Naya was a normal human. Your experience in the Tower was designed to bind you to her, and she would guide you, push you, love you. And for 18 months, she did. The work you completed, the systems you designed, you were brilliant, Kai. You justified everything. The $1 trillion cost of the Tower, governments worldwide were ready to invest.
You were playing God.
Perhaps. But Naya was killed, and we realized we had done our job too well. We'd bonded Kai to Naya irrevocably. And when she was lost, Kai fell apart. He disappeared, and with it, the confidence of the world's nations in our program. Our funding was cut. We were shut down. I spent years attempting to bring you back from your abyss, to regain the confidence of our benefactors. And once I found you, there was only ever one way to do it.
Oh my God.
We can build new patterns, or we can copy old ones. We took a backup scan of Naya's entire neural structure every 2 weeks. If I could have found you, Kai, I could have brought her back so much sooner. She is no mere clone. She is cell for cell, memory for memory.
Naya.
She's just a Xerox.
I'll take a Xerox. I'm a Xerox.
Wait, you believe him? This is beyond implausible. This is...
True.
Val?
I admit, I'm quite curious about this mysterious Val.
I'm not important. The technology is important. Big. Big, 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 big. If that procedure becomes publicly available, things will get crazy. Death will be conquered by the rich, people will riot.
And Ferric wants it, for whatever reason. She was once a technician in my employ, but she left before Naya died. I don't know how she amassed such wealth, but she's willing to use every penny of it for those codes. She had me physically beaten, threatened to kill me, but I refused.
So she took Naya hostage.
One sheet's the same as the next. Make another.
We are not making another.
Or could we? The resources required for a full reconstruction are immense. Naya alone effectively wiped out what we had left. Kai, I'm sorry.
So we'll give her the codes.
That isn't an option. Naya's life is not worth the risk of putting that technology in Ferric's hands.
Then we're going after her. Anyone coming with me?
Sure. I'm almost platinum in my frequent flyers program.
I don't know. I'm not sure this has much to do with me anymore.
Ferric still views you as an alternative to my forfeiture of the access codes. Until she has that data, your life remains in danger.
Corin, you don't owe me anything. My motives were helping you were selfish, but I need help. She needs help, please.
I guess the heroic thing to say here would be that I'm going with you because now there are bigger things at stake. But I don't think that at all. I think knowledge and technology should be shared. You can't stop it anyway. At some point, someone else will figure it out.
The likelihood of...
Shut up! No. I am going with you because I am sick of letting some bitch with too much money ruin my life. I'm in.
Wow. Want to make out later?
Oh, shut up, Grace.
Well, count me in then. Someone has to kill you if things get too rough, and I've grown too fond of you to do it here and now.
That must be one hell of a paycheck you were promised.
You have no idea.
You can count on me and Sam, Kai. Really, I promise. We'll get her back.
Thank you, Val. And everyone. Thank you.
Let's get back to the tower. Ferric should contact us soon.
To recap, Kai is an artificial human created by computer simulations, creating his consciousness neuron by neuron, and the tower's true goal is to create perfect humans like Kai. Using the human creation technology, Mir recreated Naya so that Kai would go back to being the perfect human being. Ferric is waging this war so she can get access to this technology. Mir still ain't given up those codes, so Kai and company are gonna get Naya back the old-fashioned way. Kai and Ferric discuss a couple things, verify their terms, and Mir gives Kai the access to the system files, presumably so he can track Ferric's location. Val and Adam make a couple adjustments to the chopper, and the team is off, ready for the rescue mission. Once at Ferric's location, the team gets to meet face-to-face with Ferric. Grace and Ferric get into it for a bit over Grace's sister being murdered and how Ferric swears she can bring her back with the neuron construction technology. Adam then pulls the oldest trick in the book. Instead of handing over the codes like they pretended they were about to, they lower their shields and launch an EMP grenade to disable her troops. After a rather poorly designed level requiring the team to split up and override terminals, they find the area where Naya is held, and, well, I'll let the game talk again.
I'm so sorry for ever letting anything happen to you.
As I have no memory of that event, I'm willing to forgive you. Under the very specific condition of you shaving and never again growing a beard.
I can do that.
I suppose you aren't going to hold up your end of the bargain then.
You honestly think we would just hand you the keys to immortality?
I thought there was a chance, but honestly, no. I just wanted you on the premises.
Damn it! Sam, search for—
There are no exits from that room. I'm sure Mir is listening in. How willing are we to destroy each other? I need those codes. I need to see my children again, Mir, and you need your prodigal son.
He won't give them to you.
Keep searching. Something. Anything.
He will. I'll do it, Mir. I will murder everyone in that room, because there are no options left to me. Corin couldn't open his own lock, and I couldn't force it out of you directly. I can bring them back later, Mir, but only if you give me what I want. You have 15 seconds.
That won't be necessary.
Kai?
I have the codes.
What?
Mir should have known better than to give root access to someone like me. Honestly, I don't care what you do with them, but these are my demands. You're going to guarantee our protection, you're going to dismiss your military forces, and you're going to see us safely from the building.
Now would be a good time.
Nothing personal.
You bitch!
Amazing how easy it all was. I just had to walk across the room and say hi.
You killed one of your own men!
Who will presumably be revived at some point. Though for the record, I would have done it anyway.
You had a contract!
You're not as bright as you let on, are you?
Figuring out a way to break open Radiolock was a long shot. We were hardly naive. But if we pushed you, put you in enough danger, we figured Mir would eventually crawl out of the woodwork. And he did.
You're how they always knew where we were.
What deductive brilliance.
Miranda, I swear
Whatever. Time to get paid.
That's it. We lost.
Can't Mir just change the codes?
Even if he could hear us. And he can't, he's not picking up. How rude. The process would likely take hours. They'll copy everything over immediately.
Adam, are you there?
So to recap, in this scene, Kai stole the codes from the tower and was going to give them to Ferric if he needed to. Miranda has been working for Ferric the entire time and double-crosses the team to get the codes from Kai. Corin and Miranda awkwardly mentioned this scene, which was hella confusing because I thought they were talking about Kai being dead.
Let's go.
Aren't you dead? Anyways, Corin contacts Adam and tells him to shoot down the helicopter in hilarious fashion. Miranda retaliates by killing Adam and taking his helicopter in what is honestly a pretty emotional and gripping scene.
We're there in 20 seconds, Adam. Hang on.
May he accept my sins, my absolution in his name.
Need the keys, Adam.
Can't do that, sweetie.
Please. I don't have options here.
You do. You just don't have the courage to see them.
Adam, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna make sure you're brought back.
You can't bring back a soul, Miranda.
Then if there were a hell, Adam, I guess I'd see you in it.
Ferric gets pinned down and Miranda leaves her, declaring her a lost cause. In another very gripping scene, Grace confronts Ferric about how Grace's sister can't be brought back and neither can Ferric's children.
You seem awfully afraid of death for someone who can just be brought back.
It's not the same. No one would know the difference, but it's not me. I'd still be dead.
You selfish hypocrite bitch. So the original is gone. Your death is real and you tell me I can have my sister back?
You can have her back. You can have your sister, and I can have my Jaden and Jace, and—
Stop pretending you care about your children. They're dead and gone forever. You just want the echoes around so you can live with yourself.
No, they'll be happy. I'll bring them back.
But what? You didn't take scans of them, you couldn't have known!
They took fMRI scans when they were sick. We could use those.
That wouldn't be enough, Heather. You need more. Detailed down to the neuron and synapse.
It's over. You're over. No. Your children are never coming back. My sister is never coming back. And you, Heather Ferric, please, are never coming back. Bitch.
After Ferric's death, Sam's interface starts spazzing out for reasons? The team discuss the fact that they don't know where Miranda is going and decide to go back to check up on Mir. On the chopper flight back, Kai and Naya talk about their relationship and humanity while Grace expounds upon her sister's death. Before they can land, Miranda contacts them from Mir's base and confirms that she's there. With revenge on their mind, the squad prepares for the final battle. During the level to Miranda, the gameplay problem I had mentioned earlier arises. I was at the end of the level with only Naya alive, but no more waypoints or enemies were appearing, so I was wondering what was preventing my advancement. It turned out that I needed to revive all of my teammates to finish the level, even though I did not have the necessary resources to revive anyone. Instead of just auto-reviving everyone so the ending level cutscene can play, I had to waste time trying to figure out that I had to do something that should be impossible in that moment. There was no hint or prompt or anything that I needed to revive the gang to finish the mission, or that I could revive people without the resources required. Horrendously poor design right there. Anyways, after I revive the team, for no good reason, Kai finds Mir dead. Whatever, who cares? Then the crew finally meets Miranda, and Corin puts on his big boy pants to shoot her in the leg. Too bad his one-liner afterwards is just pitiful.
Sometimes people just need to be shot.
Moving on. How do I explain this one? Corin asks Miranda what she knows about Val. Miranda presents an audio file from the weapons cache showing Val giving Sam the code to the office way back in the beginning of the game. Somehow Kai immediately comes to the correct conclusion that Val is the hacker and Naya's killer. Corin realizes that she got the office code from hacking his computer. Val says she was ordered to kill Naya, and then after that she was free to do as she pleased. So she set out to spend this time trying to get Naya remade? Kai and Naya leave to get their revenge on Val. Miranda apparently kills Grace and is about to finish off Corin when...
Sam. Sam, she's here. She's pulling us out. Iris is here.
When the gang is transported into another dimension and meets what is basically God. Meet Iris. She is a being of an advanced civilization who tells the party that their Earth and the concepts of reality are nothing more than a simulation she's running. She also admits to being the one who gave Val the order to assassinate the original Naya. Iris explains that she did that because Kai is breaking the rules of her simulation. The rule in question specifically says that if any post-human intellect exists, then the simulation is to be terminated immediately. Corin asks why Kai is such a big issue, and for some reason Kai immediately answers that the simulation, the tower, inside the simulation, Earth, would be extremely costly on Iris's energy resources. Iris agrees. Kai wonders why Iris wouldn't just kill him then, and Iris answers by saying that she had to prove the human race was unfit, and that breaking Kai down by killing Naya was the way to do that. If you're thinking you're lost and that this doesn't make any sense, don't worry, this actually doesn't make any sense. The crew comes to terms with their newfound existential crisis and asks to show Iris that their simulation is worth saving. Iris agrees and throws everybody into the final level, where a somewhat crazed Miranda is trying to kill Naya, because, well, killing Naya seemed to have saved reality once, so why not try it again? The team needs to activate 3 nodes to stop Miranda, but surprise! The nodes kill the user on activation. Kai, Grace, and Naya end up sacrificing themselves to the nodes, and Corin dies in a clunky fistfight with Miranda. Iris apparently recreates everyone and explains that she's still gonna end the Earth simulation. The team wonders why she was running the Earth simulation in the first place, and Iris goes on this big spiel about how eventually the universe will die and her race is somehow trying to find a way to stop that, or extend it, or create another universe, or something. When pressed on why the Earth simulation is still going to be terminated, Iris then starts talking about this wild nonsense.
I do not have complete autonomy. As I mentioned, only a few share my ideals. The rest of my civilization imposes these limits, and I must obey them.
We died because you sent us straight into Miranda's gun sights. Just wanted a little send-off entertainment?
You've all been consistently spectacular examples of creatures worth saving. You have a passion that our civilization has lost. Your neural circuitry is captivating. But some humans, motivated by greed and ignorance, can be very far less deserving. I didn't need to test you. I needed to test someone else.
Miranda.
Indeed. She had killed her only friend, and she regretted it more than you could possibly know. I had ripped her recently acquired wealth from her, making that very act meaningless. And, most devastating of all, her ironclad belief that there was no intelligence guiding her universe was utterly shattered by my recent appearance. And despite this, despite all that had happened to her, she fought to do what she thought was right. She fought to save her fellow humans from the abyss. You should thank her. She changed my mind.
So, does that mean...
The regulation, at some cost, can be bent. I cannot continue the simulation, but I can continue those inside it.
What?
You're talking about neural construction. What Mir did to me.
I am. For every one of the 7.443 billion human beings alive at this very instant, I'll bring all of you out of this universe into mine. I'll find you a planet, a solar system. Humanity will live on.
Gag. So, Miranda's psychotic actions save the human race, and Iris agrees to reconstruct every human on a suitable, Earth-like solar system in her universe. The end. No, seriously. That's the end.
Is it working? I think it's on.
We're here at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like a witch project.
Congratulations! You won the game. Everyone.
Now you may be thinking to yourself, Mr. Yusak, why on earth would you go into such detail with this game's story synopsis? And my answer is this, because if I wanted to show you how much of a complete mess this game's story is, then shouldn't I make sure not to skip any details? Honestly, I wouldn't even call that synopsis. That's so accurate to the story that's basically a retelling. There Came an Echo tries to pack an unfathomably large story into a 4-hour game, and it fails hard. The storyline is far too big for its britches and leaves a family of questions and plot holes behind. I wanted to tell an accurate synopsis of the story because I've got a long list of unanswered questions for this game, and I don't want the viewers to get lost behind. Granted, some of these won't make much sense if you haven't played the game, but I feel like I've outlined the big ones enough to be comprehensible. Now that we've made our way through the story and our brains are leaking out of our ears, it's time to list off Mr. Yusak's query of questions for There Came an Echo. What exactly is radio lock? There are kinda some mentions of it being a security lock mechanism for data, but no one actually comes out and says it's a security lock for data, or something like that. The game spends too much time talking about radio lock, but no one ever actually defines it. Why does Val want Corrin to break radio lock? To get what is presumably the access codes. What does Val plan on doing with them? Does she plan to recreate Naya to make it up for Kai? At the end, she mentions wanting to protect Naya's data, so why would she want radio lock broken? Why does Val try to heavily persuade Corrin away from Miranda when they first met? Does Val know that Miranda's a double-crosser?
I'm unarmed, I just want to talk.
Corrin, I know you don't want to kill anybody, but she is a really good person to kill right now.
This is in your best interest, trust me.
Corrin, don't—
You can come with me or be here when the smoke clears. Your call.
Corrin, you can't just—
This way.
If so, why is Val suddenly cool with Miranda right after that? Val seems pretty surprised when Miranda does end up going turncoat on the gang later on.
The automated defense systems were disabled, but there's lots of bad guys here. Ugh. I never liked Miranda, you know.
Naya.
It should be its own question. Why is Val suddenly cool with Miranda after being diligently against her when they first meet? What is Grace a suspect in a murder case for? Is it for her sister's death? This isn't mentioned by Val when she first talks about Grace. This is never brought up again. Why didn't Ferret kill Grace? She obviously knew that Grace was an issue because she kept her under constant surveillance for 3 years, so why not, off her, like what happened to Grace's sister? Naya mentions that Ferric might understand what it's like to lose a loved one, but Ferric is already prepping to have the death of countless people on her hands for utilizing a grand-scale army to get the codes from Mir. So, what's another death?
How in God's green earth did Kai get access to the codes? The codes are supposed to be hidden behind radio lock, which Corrin says you can't get access to because radio lock is unbreakable. But when Kai uses the system files to track Ferrick's location, I guess he was given root access, which is a magical hand wave excuse that means he can somehow now get behind radio lock and get the codes. None of this makes sense, and it completely invalidates half of what the game's trying to do with the whole idea that radio lock is the stoppage point between everyone getting these codes.
Lay off, Miranda.
What the hell?
Why does Miranda ditch Ferrick in the skirmish? Miranda just goes, lol, lost cause Ferrick, and then bounces. Ferrick is the one paying her contract, right? Was Miranda already paid? Iris mentions that she took the money away from Miranda at the end of the game, but then why does Miranda go back to the tower? Is she going to use the access codes for something? The only person she would want to bring back would be Ferrick, but that's A, impossible, and B, she would only want to do that if Ferrick never paid her. But Iris mentions taking her money away, so why is Miranda at the tower? She should be off the coast of Fiji, lighting cigars with $100 bills. She doesn't care about the tower simulation or human recreation technology. Or does she? Why is Ferrick such a big idiot? She obviously knew that she couldn't bring back her sons the same, and then even knew they couldn't be brought back at all. For someone with such high intellect, you think she would have noticed this, especially since she was working for Mir. Why would she go through all of that trouble to amass an uncountable wealth for a vicious attack on the tower for a program that can't bring her kids back, and she knows it? Where is the research, lady? Did Ferrick have a hand in the death of her children? Grace mentions that she wants to bring them back so she can live with herself. What exactly caused their death? By her mention of fMRI scans, it had to be some sort of disease and not instant death or something. Why does Sam's interface start to bug out after the double cross? Nothing ever comes of this, and it's never explained. It's like a cop-out storytelling device where you skip over conversations and events because you're glitching out. How does Kai know that the audio file is evidence that Val did the hack on Corrin's computer and is Naya's killer? All they hear is an audio clip of Val talking to Sam about Corrin from the beginning of the game, and the audio file came from the cache system, which isn't damning in the slightest. How did Corrin know that the door code Val mentioned to Sam in the audio file was evidence that Val hacked Corrin's computer days earlier? It's a 6-digit door code to an office. That type of data could have been hacked from, like, anywhere in the company. I mean, yeah, I understand that both Kai and Corrin are aware that a hack took place, but what is mentioned in the audio file is so inconspicuous and non-damning that I have no idea how Kai and Corrin instantly jumped to the correct conclusion that Val is both the hacker and the killer. Why does Iris go about killing Naya in an assassination attempt after a year or something of them being married? Iris says that if any post-human intellect shows up on the Earth simulation, it is to be shut down immediately. But, she sure didn't do anything all that immediate. How does Kai immediately know why he's an issue to the simulation world? It's cool that Iris expounds upon Kai's statement, but he knows immediately. Like, Corrin just finishes asking the question and Kai's like, I cost too much? Duh. You big idiot. What part of Kai is exactly the issue to Iris? Iris mentions that given her situation guidelines that no civilization can transition into a post-human state. But she says that Kai is correct when he mentions that the simulation inside the simulation is too costly to energy resources. But the tower simulation is a different segment from the human creation and reproduction technology. The point I'm trying to make is that Iris isn't doing a great job of saying what the issue is at hand. What I think she's trying to say is that a post-human state is the simulation that creates Kai, and the simulation is too intensive to resources. Instead, what we are left with are these super confusing boundaries, where Kai, being an artificially created human, triggers the fail state for Iris' simulation. But also, the tower simulation that creates Kai eats up too much resources, which triggers the fail state on Iris' simulation. Iris treats this as if somehow Kai's existence and the tower simulation are one and the same, but while yes, they are connected, they are not the same thing, and their causes have different effects that technically trigger two different fail states. I bring all of this up because of the next question. What does breaking down Kai have to do with anything? Check out what Iris says here.
Then why wouldn't you just kill me?
To what end? Killing you would not undo the truth of your advancement. I had to prove that the human race was unfit. So I did. I broke you down. I'm sorry, Kai.
So you're gonna kill us?
If the problem with the Earth simulation is that the tower simulation is eating up too many resources, then how does showing that the human race is unfit prove anything? And how does breaking down Kai prove that the human race is unfit? None of these things have anything to do with any of these things. If you break down Kai by killing Naya, that's great. You prove that Kai isn't the perfect being. But Kai's perfection or non-perfection doesn't change the fact that he's artificial or post-human, nor does it change the tower simulation's resource intensiveness. As far as I can see, breaking down Kai literally does nothing to solve the problems Iris has with the Earth simulation. So why did she do it in the first place? How does Iris intervening waste another 10 or 20 years of energy? Listen to what Corrin says here.
Corrin, if she's telling the truth, I don't know if we should do something at all. We aren't that important.
No, we are important. Even if you'd never existed, she would have wiped us out eventually, right? So why would she intervene and waste another 10 or 20 years worth of energy?
If Iris would eventually wipe out the human race anyways, wouldn't intervening now when the tower simulation is eating up resources save energy resources? How would cutting the Earth simulation early waste energy resources? It should do the opposite, which is Iris's goal. How does Miranda's attempt to kill Naya mean anything towards saving humanity? Naya is neither linked to the post-human state, nor the energy resources. Miranda mentions that killing Naya once saved humanity, so doing it again should do the trick. But all killing Naya did was break Kai, which proved humanity was unfit. Which means Iris is still gonna get rid of the Earth simulation anyways? I guess the Naya that Miranda is trying to kill is actually Naya 2.0 and not Naya 1.0, which was an actual human, but that still has nothing to do with anything. In regards to anything, Miranda doesn't even sound like someone willing to fight to save humanity. She sounds like someone who has just lost everything and is falling off the deep end. Why is... whatever. I'm done. I would say that the plot eventually stops trying to explain things, but that would imply that the plot attempted to explain things to begin with. Most of my understanding of what happened in the game came from rewatching my footage in preparation for this review. So many basic details like who is Ferric and what is Radiolock can easily be lost on a player during their first playthrough. That, coupled with the plot speed and complexity, makes the game feel like a queasy roller coaster ride. The ending is a massive kick to the junk, and a complete asspull that tries to tie up what's going on, but in reality makes it all worse. The game suffers from horror movie convenience, where a character will do something dumb just to move the plot forward, while the viewer is sitting there talking to the screen like, don't go into the dark room by yourself, you idiot. But in this case, it's, don't wage a war to steal human creation technology if you can't bring back your kids, you idiot. While I mentioned earlier that it's hard to recommend There Came an Echo, I might have been being a little soft. It's really easy to not enjoy this game. Voice controls are super cool, but the second they stop working, you'll feel frustrated. The story may seem interesting, but then it has a panic attack and poops in your cereal. You might enjoy yourself, but you might look back on the game being only 4 hours long and think, that was it? There's a lot of knocks against There Came an Echo, and some of them are pretty big. But I gotta give credit where credit is due, and say that the game tried to be something original and fresh. It may have failed at being a good game, but it definitely tried being different, and at the end of the day, I have to congratulate those efforts. All I can say is pick it up at your own risk. I can't guarantee you're gonna like it.